houseguest. I'm Andrea Chu.
And I am David Belleville.
And we are back to talk about another season of Big Brother.
Summer can finally get underway. Big Brother is back with season 26, and we are back with season 2 of our Hey Houseguest podcast, where we're going to break it all down for you each week.
I am loving this season so far. I'm so excited to be back to talk about it. It's been extremely entertaining. They did not wait to get into the drama. I think I'm already liking it better than last season, dare I say.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with the BBAI theme.
Okay.
What do you think?
So my initial concern with this theme was that it was going to date itself really quickly. AI is in its infancy, and in 5 to 10 years from now, what will AI look like? What will we be dealing with? And what will we be thinking when we look back on this season? Having said all of that, those concerns have gone by the wayside because it's been such an entertaining start to the season, and AI Ainsley has unleashed quite the twist and turns so far.
Let's talk about Ainsley herself for like 1 second.
Okay.
My initial reaction, I was like, why did they pick a 90s cartoon character to represent this AI person when it's supposed to be futuristic and everything? But I think that's just like their little Big Brother touch of making it a little bit cheesy.
If any show could pull off subpar animations when it is 2024, it's Big Brother, so they get a pass. And to your point, the AI twists and the theme and the house and its cohesiveness, how it's changed the game in the early stages, it all has made a lot of sense, and it's made for a lot of good TV.
Agreed. The biggest twist so far has been 3 people on the block instead of 2.
Yeah.
I think that's great. It changes up the way that the game operates, changes the power of the HOH.
My biggest critique in season pass have been that the gameplay has become too predictable. Each week, you kind of had an idea of who was going to be eliminated, who was going to be nominated. And so this sort of takes away that predictability from week to week, because if there is this master plan to get out a certain house guest, and on eviction night they win the AI arena, which is a new twist this season, then that master plan can get foiled very, very quickly. So it just keeps things interesting and keeps all the house guests on their toes.
I love that everyone on the block has a chance to save themselves. It kind of eliminates the power of that backdoor plan where you name a replacement nominee after the veto and that person has no chance to fight for themselves in any sort of competition.
Right.
Every single person on the block will have at least a fighting chance to save themselves, even if they haven't gotten the votes.
It also adds an added layer of complexity for the HOH because they now have a whole other person that they have to add on the block. So if your goal is to avoid getting as much blood on your hands as possible, well, that just became harder. And if anyone on the block gets taken down by the veto, you now have to nominate a 4th house guest. So it changes the game not just for the nominees or the voting players, but also for the HOH. It becomes much harder.
And a really funny thing that happened with the BBAI arena, so we don't know who the 2 final nominees are going to be until right before the vote. So people can only plan so much because they don't know who the final nominees are going to be. But something funny that happened is that when those nominees walk down the stairs, they have a few more moments to campaign for themselves before the final speech that they give. And I think that the producers and Julie really thought that they were going to take those moments to like pull someone in a room and give their last plea. But that hasn't happened so far. And I think Julie is frustrated with it because twice it's happened where, you know, Thursday night and she was wearing her little like lab coat outfit and she was like, I guess the 2 nominees are really comfortable because no one is using this time to campaign for themselves. And everyone's just like, what? I think it's going a little bit differently than they planned, which is fun. That's the power of live TV.
Live TV, anything can happen. It does appear, though, that they were hoping for a double eviction type vibe where everybody's in a rush and there's a lot of chaos and you're pulling people into rooms and you're making last minute campaign speeches. That has not materialized, and it does appear that Julie Chen is disappointed in that. But it's been fine regardless.
No.
It's been so entertaining, but Julie wants this to go a certain way, and it's not.
Totally. Another fun element is the upgrades and downgrades, which are also on theme, which I love.
Yeah.
But the The downgrades didn't come into play that much. Cedric and Chelsie got the downgrades, and they couldn't play in the first competitions, couldn't be HOH, couldn't vote, which later on in the game I think would have been really crazy. But the first week, you kind of want to lay low anyway.
Right.
So once that happened, I was like, oh, not a big deal. Like, that really didn't matter.
Yeah, it's essential to fly under the radar in the early stages, so they were given that opportunity to do so without getting blood on their hands.
The upgrades.
Yeah.
So Makensy and Quinn got the upgrades, and these are really powerful.
Yeah.
So they have 4 weeks to use these. They're a little bit different. Makensy's power is America's veto, which means that she can pull a nominee off the block, herself included, and America will name the replacement nominee instead of the HOH, which comes with a little bit of risk because you don't really know how America is perceiving all the house guests. You might love somebody and think that they're great and that they're safe, but America could hate them.
Yeah.
And that your friend could go up on the block when you pull somebody else off. So it is risky.
It is risky, and I can't fathom a scenario in which you would use it unless you were the one on the block. And so she had an opportunity to save her showman's Matt with this power. She neglected to do so for good reason. She is saving it for herself. So we'll see if it comes into play at all, but that's the only situation where I can fathom it being used.
Also, Quinn got the upgrade, which I think is a better power, and it's the Deepfake HOH, I think it was called, which basically means that he can become the HOH without anyone knowing. He can replace the nominees, change his nominees, take himself off the block if he needs to, and no one has to find out it's him. So he can get a huge target out without getting any blood on his hands.
Yeah, that is a massive power, and I hope that it gets used before his 4 weeks are up, because I just want to see what he would do and how it would change the house. So I'm really pulling for that power to get used.
Yes. So there has been a cast of characters so far. I'm loving this group of people, the way that they're interacting. There's already been so much drama, which I love. So let's go through and talk about each person and what we think of them. Makensy. So she won that upgrade. That's impressive. But one thing I don't like that she's doing is that she's telling everyone about it.
Yeah.
Someone has a little suspicion. They're like, do you have the upgrade? And she's like, you're right, I have it. Just don't tell anyone.
I might be outing myself if I'm ever on Big Brother, but no, right now, I will never tell you. I will never tell you. I will not tell anybody if I'm ever awarded a power in that game. It's your greatest asset are the secrets you have, and if you are telling on yourself throughout the house, one way or another, it could come back to you. So I agree, Makensy, keep your mouth shut with your power.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on to Leah.
Okay.
Leah had introduced herself to all of America as, her words, not mine, quote unquote, a chubby chaser. And if you're going to do that, if that's how you're going to introduce yourself to millions of viewers, you're going to be a ham, you're going to be well-liked, you're going to be funny, and so far that's how I am perceiving Leah to be.
I'm loving her so far. I think she's really funny. I don't know how good of a game player she's going to be. She's gotten really close to winning HOH both times, but regardless, I think she's hilarious, and I want to be her friend.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So Matt, we don't have to talk about him too much because he's gone already, but he did make quite the splash in the house during the short time that he was there. He got into a tiff with Angela almost immediately because she made some comment, you're definitely going to be in a showmance. And he was like, I'm being stereotyped because I'm so hot. And that kind of blew up into Angela's infamous rant.
It's really hard to get sympathy points if you're complaining about your own good looks. I don't know how far that would have gotten him. He was attacked right away by Angela. That put him in a really tough position. He was put on the block because of Angela, let's be honest. And credit to the house guests for getting out a really tough competitor early. That's what you should do. That's the name of the game. Normally, the first couple of house guests evicted are on the safer side. So I like this move by the rest of the house by getting out a potentially tough competitor early.
Totally. And I think that him going home really had nothing to do with his fight with Angela. I think people were just like, he's someone who could be good at competition, so let's get him out while we have the chance.
Which makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about our cop from Boston, Kenney.
The Boston cop.
I have a connection to a house guest from last season. I'm starting to draw. I have no idea if it's actually going to pan out throughout the season, but he's reminding me in the early goings of Cameron from last season. Cameron won America's Favorite House Guest. He was controversial, but he was a survivor and a fighter. Time and time again, his back would be against the wall, and he would fight to stay in. And Kenney has now been on the block twice. He has come off the block most recently from the Veto this past week, and so he's giving me the impression of someone who might be, quote-unquote, the fighter of this season.
I gotta say, I don't have that impression of him.
Okay.
To me, it seems like he really bonded with Matt, which is fine. But then he wouldn't let it go. Once he was almost gonna like sacrifice himself so that Matt could stay. And then once Matt did go home, it appeared a little bit like he gave up, like he doesn't care about being in the house that much. I don't know if it's just what we're seeing and he's not involved in any of the big conversations, but he seems like, oh, my best buddy went home and that's it for me. Like I came here, I got to be on the show, but this isn't the most important thing. And I don't like that attitude, really.
But if that's the case, then he should be out the door, because I only want to see people competing and people who want to win. But if he can stick it out, I just think he has a chance to keep fighting to stay alive. It doesn't seem like he's made a lot of connections to keep himself there, so that would be working against him. But I think he's got that fighting spirit. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. That brings us to Tucker.
Okay.
I really like Tucker. I think he's really funny. He's goofy. He's likable. We got a little glimpse of his competitive spirit in the BBAI arena where he did a puzzle in 2 seconds and saved himself. I really like him so far, and I think he has the potential to go very far in the game.
Yeah, he appears to be someone who might perform well at physical competitions, but that AI arena comp was a puzzle comp that he blew through. He at the end was repeatedly saying, I love puzzles, I love puzzles, I love puzzles. And it's
like an accent, which is funny. I don't know why.
He's got a lot of character. He's got a lot of personality. He's been a lot of fun to watch. And I think because of all of that, he has a chance to make it very far in this game. Someone who did not make it very far in this game is Lisa, who also happens to be Tucker's arch rival.
I gotta say, she's probably a wonderful woman in real life. I don't know her, but watching her as a viewer on a TV show really grinds my gears. I find that people who say, good vibes, I'm just here for the good vibes, I bring the good vibes, have the worst vibes sometimes. Like a little doth protest too much. She came around with her edible glitter and she was sprinkling that with her little grimy fingers on people's food. First of all, don't want your glitter. Don't want your dirty fingers on my food. Didn't love that. Seems that my impression of her is also similar to that of the rest of the house.
Yes. Tucker did not like her from the start, and that was very evident. He sort of, even though he wasn't in power, he sort of spearheaded getting Lisa out of this game. And from an 11-1 vote, she was the first blindside of the season as well.
She was super blindsided. She was shocked. She was sure that Angela was going home. She really didn't know what to say when it was her name that was announced at the end, because she didn't expect it at all. Yeah. Which was kind of fun to watch. I like when it's not predictable.
Oh my gosh. It was such an entertaining eviction, and you just said her name. We could do a whole episode on Angela, but why don't you share your thoughts first?
Truly. She is chaos. She's a loose cannon. She says whatever's on her mind. She's extremely emotional, so that could be anything. And incredible TV. She's a little cuckoo. A little bit. I think the biggest thing that happened is that her paranoia just took over, and she invented this rivalry in her mind with Matt, that he was coming for her, and that every conversation she would have from there on out was in the context of he was sending people after her. She didn't trust anything. She just came down the stairs to do her little rant after literally nothing sparked it except for her own paranoia, and she went after him.
And she made a Big Brother history. That epic explosion at the top of the stairs one morning in the BB house will go down in BB
slow
history.
Clapping.
That was an epic rant. She attacked poor Matt, for his quote-unquote crazy eyes, however she did that. And not only her paranoia and her attacks, she also went after Lisa before the eviction and was mimicking her and called her a twit and made her cry. So Angela has just been proven to not be afraid of going after people, sharing her thoughts, sharing what she thinks, and it's been fabulous to watch. And she's also had a little bit of a controversy with Quinn. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so something that Angela did to herself was that she has blown up. She's been super emotional to the point where people don't really trust anything that she has to say, even when she is correct. So she immediately formed this bond with Quinn. They made like a BB gun alliance. He trusted her a little too soon, I thought, and told her his power. And it created this situation where T'kor, Cedric, Cam, and Chelsie were outside on the hammock, and Angela and Quinn were inside, and Angela goes up to Quinn and she said, "That right there, that's the group." So I took this as, this is the group that I want to work with. She said, that's the group. She thinks Quinn is her closest ally. She said, we should work together. She already likes those people in that group. But he turned around and went out and told them what she said without giving the full context, which I think painted her in a light that wasn't completely accurate.
No, that's a great point. I perceived it a little differently. I did think that she was going up to Quinn and being like, that's the group that we need to watch out for. However, I don't think that justifies Quinn, who he chose as Angela to be an early alliance member, to then go and share that information, which ultimately ended up not being true anyways. It was a difference of perception, but not reality. And so without clarifying his thoughts with Angela, he instead went and told other house guests, and it blew up into something that it probably shouldn't have, but Angela still continues to find herself among all of the drama, and she seems to attract it. So it is a shame that she also knows Quinn's power and can blow up his game at a moment's notice.
But I also think if she said it, people wouldn't really believe her, which sort of, we saw a glimpse of that. She almost tried to tell Tucker, and he was like, not true. Don't think that's true. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer she has in this game, but I'm enjoying watching it.
That brings us to T'kor, and she's been flying under the radar and hasn't made any big splashes. She did also get into it a little bit with Angela, but that was cordial for the most part. And I look at players who are flying under the radar, and they go to the top of my list at the beginning of each season, because if you can avoid any controversy in the early stages, that'll only help you later in the game. So
I really like T'kor. I think she could have taken that Angela situation and run with it and really caused a big issue, but she chose to handle it pretty privately. And she was like, you know what, after I had a conversation with her, she's all good in my book. Like, we're completely fine. She's not playing with her emotions, which I really like. I really like T'kor. And part of that Pentagon alliance is Cedric. I think he seems really sweet. I don't know how smart he seems to me, just based off of me completely assuming. I don't know him. But first impression, I feel like he's not going to last very long in the game.
I totally disagree. He's one of my early favorites so far. And again, being a part of this Pentagon alliance, I think will help him in the long haul. He's, again, in the first 2 weeks, he hasn't made a lot of waves. He hasn't made any enemies. If anything, he's only making good connections. I am interested to see how he competes as time goes on, what his strengths are. Those haven't emerged too much, but I think in the early stages he's positioned okay, and I am Team Cedric so far.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
That brings us to our current HOH, our outgoing HOH, I
True.
should say, is Chelsie.
At first, I was like, whatever, like, she's fine. But I really like how she played the HOH. She went with what the house was thinking. She didn't make a huge move, which was good. Her focus was not to get a lot of blood on her hands, which she successfully accomplished. She seems very strategic. I really like her.
Yes, and that brings us to Cam. He's one of my early favorites. He seems so likable. He's also a part of the Pentagon Alliance, and I think that he'll be competitive in comps. We haven't seen that too much yet, but that could also be a strategy. If you're really good at comps in the early stages, that puts a target on your back. I think he's positioning himself nicely in this house. He's keeping a low profile, and I think that's a smart play.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of him yet, so we'll see if he kind of flourishes as a player on his own. But he is positioned with a good group of people in that Pentagon alliance. Kimo, who is not in that alliance, but seems to be on good terms with them, like in that bedroom, they're all in there, that like, I call it like the Fraggle Rock bedroom that looks like a cave, sort of. He did get himself off the block week 1 in the BBAI arena, so maybe he has some competition skills that we have yet to see, but he seems like very sweet, very likable. He's playing for Hawaii, which we love. So I really like Kimo, at least as a person.
Sure. That takes us to Brooklyn. She's another part of our Pentagon alliance, which I don't know if you have picked up on yet. I'm a fan of. She's another player that has remained under the radar so far. She's surrounding herself with the right people. She seems to be well liked and well received in this house so far. I don't have any notes for you, Brooklyn. Keep on doing your thing. What about Joseph?
Yeah,
our Tampa guy.
Our Tampa guy, Joseph.
Oh, I can't believe
I like Joseph.
Oh yeah.
I got a really good first impression of him. I was just like, I got a good feeling about our Tampa guy, Joseph. He seems to be kind of keeping his cards close to his chest so far, but I think he knows more of what's going on than he's letting on. He's staying out of the drama, but aware of the drama. So I'm liking Joseph. I have a good feeling about Joseph making it very far.
Tampa Joe, you have
Tampa
some fans
Joe.
Here. Let's talk about Rubina.
Okay, I have to admit something. Sometimes I think as a tall person, when people are really short, I feel like we aren't going to get along.
Oh.
But
I
don't know why I think this way, but I really like her so far. She again seems extremely observant, not involving herself in the drama, but being extremely aware, which I think is a good superpower.
Yeah, and all of these characters that we've talked about so far have come together in the Big Brother house for season 26, and it has culminated into what a lot of people are comparing to just old school Big Brother. We are seeing the drama, we are seeing the fights. It's been fantastic TV. How would you compare it to seasons in the past?
Yeah, so something that is similar to old school BB for me is that people are name calling. These fights are just super out in the open. No one's doing it in private. No one's trying to pretend that they're this good person in front of everybody else and then being mean in private. This is just name calling out in the open, which is really fun to watch. The Big Brother house was never about people getting along. It was always about deception, alliances, blind sides.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This has been what I think Big Brother fans in recent memory have been really yearning for. There have been credible critiques of seasons past, and so far it just seems like they've got the right mix of people all in the same place at the right time, and I cannot wait to see how this season unfolds.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where this ride takes us. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're so excited to be back to recap everything that happens thus far. We'll get to break down a little bit more nitty-gritty week by week going forward, but we'll be here to discuss everything.
I cannot wait. It's going to be such a fun summer. Please come back and join us each week as we break it all down for you here on Hey Houseguest.
See ya.